Good morning. Hi, everyone. I'm Stacy. This is Walking in My Shoes, and we are loving my veteran this morning. It is Fabulous Friday. We know we do our Fabulous Fridays every Friday. We want people to enjoy their Fridays, get ready for the weekend, kind of recap your week and sorry, oh my coffee, where you've been and what all great stuff is coming up. Good morning, Stephanie. So, just want to put that out there to everybody. Fabulous Fridays. We do those because we have to get ready. We have to take count of our victories, our personal victories, our relationship victories. That's what it's all about. It is about getting our victories together, taking account of those victories, enjoying those victories, and working through them. That's what our Fridays are all about. I want to get you motivated. Good morning, Melissa. I know it is coming up to 4th of July weekend, and most of us as spouses dread that. We just dread the 4th of July weekend. The fireworks are a trigger, fireworks are a trigger, fireworks are a trigger. That I understand that, and I know it's tough, and I know we got to be a little careful around that, and we can't help when our neighbor, good morning, Stacy, we can't help when our neighbors shoot off fireworks. I get that, and I understand that. But 4th of July is one of those holidays that we know it's going to happen. Okay, so it's one of those times when we're trying to take in what our Friday and our weekend is going to be about. We know that's coming up, right? Morning, Sarah. So we know that's coming up. We already know that fireworks can be a trigger, and we already know they're coming up. So we just need to plan for it. Unlike those other triggers that just pop into place when we're thinking about our Fridays coming, especially into a 4th of July weekend. What are you going to do? What plans do you have to help alleviate some of the issues? Talk to your veteran, y'all. I'm telling you, conversation. They know it's coming. It's going to be here. So ask, hey, what do you want to do? What do you want to do? I kind of make these holidays where they're shooting things off loudly, kind of more about what do you want to do? Well, we're going to my mom's to be with her for having some surgery, so we're going to go there. But we know it's 4th of July. I'm like, hey, what do you want to do while we're there that will help alleviate that? So, she's got a basement. We can watch a movie. He may decide to face it head on, but I do kind of make it about him on that day and that time frame because we know it's happening. So always just think about that. That's your little precursor for 4th of July. But talk to them because they're going to trigger. That's one trigger we know is coming. I mean, we see it coming. So let's don't freak out about it. Let's just talk to them. Hey, what do you want to do? Because they know it happens. It happens every year. It's not some random thing. Right? It happens every year. So let's talk about that. So what else do we have good going on Fridays? Where are your victories this week? Did we do what we set out to do on Motivational Mondays? What did you do for yourself this week? What did you do for yourself this week? You can add it here if you want to add it. You can just keep it to yourself, whatever. But what did you do for you this week? We need to know that. That is what it is about. That's how we take count of our victories. We keep up what is the one thing you did for you this week. I mean, it's important that we do this. Look, I know this is going to sound stupid. Take time and enjoy the hot tub with a tall glass of wine. Look at you, sister. Those are the things we talk about. What did you do for you? Yeah, I know that 2200 squat challenge. I hear you, but I was demoted from that and told I wasn't allowed to do that squat challenge. So what did I do for me this week? Y'all, I know this is going to sound silly. I made bacon potato pie, and I will put the recipe on the comments down here. It was phenomenal, and it was a craving food I had, and I was like, it was the one time this week I didn't say to him, hey, babe, what do you want to eat? I just went out and I did it for me because I craved it, and I was like, nope, I'm not even going to ask today. All right? Oh, look at that. Made plans to babysit her twin 6-month-old grandbabies. Girl, it'd be exhausting, but I'm so excited. Congratulations. So what did you do for your veteran this week? Where's your victory in that this week? What did you do for your veteran this week? Again, you don't have to post it here, but you can share it. Think about it. What did you do for your veteran this week? Did you do something for your veteran this week. I know for me, the personal thing I did this week was I literally went back to, and I'm praying to God, cross my fingers. I just have to take count of every morning that I set my boundaries. I went back in and I said, nope, we're not going to do this. We're not going to do this. I'm not going to do this after this time. This is my boundaries. And I set them. And I actually told people no. So that was my victory. I told people no when they asked for something out of my victory, out of my boundary. And I said, no, I can't do that. So that was my personal victory for what I did for me this week. Your bud's going to buy a new Harley. Wow. What did I do for my veteran this week? I opened up to him about some things that were bothering me. Of course, it took World War III to get there because I created it, but I opened up to him about some things that were bothering me. And I kind of enforced my own boundaries and turned the phone off and spent some time with him and said, I need to go spend time with my veteran. I love him, and this is called loving my veteran. So I did that. And what did you do for somebody else this week? Those are the things that we think about. Those are the things that make us a fabulous Friday, because we take our whole week. And yes, I'm not kidding y'all. There was all kinds of crap built in my week. Right? There was garbage built in my week. There was distractions built in my week. But if you always set out on Motivational Monday with 3 things in mind, what'd you do for yourself? You're going to do something for yourself this week. You're going to do something for your veteran, and you're going to do something for somebody else. You always come into that with Monday. And then on Fabulous Fridays, when you take account of what all happened, right? When you take account of what all happened, now you can sit back and say, I accomplished this, and I accomplished that, and I accomplished. And it may not always be positive. Sorry, y'all. Something is blooming in South Georgia that is driving me nuts. So it may not always be positive. It may not always be, well, we went out and had dinner, or we did this, or we did that. It may be that I set a boundary and I enforced it. And that boundary that I enforced created a situation. But at the end of the day, even though you may have decided that you're going to take a break, or maybe you decide that, I know it is probably the mold from all the rain. It may be that you decided to take a step back for a minute. It may be that you decided to, we're gonna enforce a boundary because that's going to be good for him or her. It may be any of those things, but those are still things you did for your veteran, even though it may not have a positive outcome immediately. If it is a positive outcome long term, then you did something for them. Not enabling them may put them in a bad situation in their mind, but it's still doing something for your veteran. So take into account when you think about your Fabulous Fridays, you know what? I didn't enable him this week. I didn't enable him on this thing. Now, it doesn't have to be the whole week. One thing, I didn't enable him, and I made that be accountability. That's still doing something for your veteran. Okay, so just think about it in that perspective. That's still your victory. Okay, so don't look at it as a failure. Look at it as a victory. I didn't enable him in this situation. I held to my guns and held him accountable. I did this. That's still doing something for your veteran. And then what did you do for somebody else? Did you tell somebody else that you loved them? Did you call them and say, hey, just thinking about you today? Did you send a message to them and say they meant something to you? All of those things, as small as they may be, a text message, as small as it may be, that says, hey, I did this. How was your day? Thinking about you. Are you okay today? Just checking in. Hope you have a great day. Just some random person out of your phone you haven't talked to in a while. That's still doing something for somebody else. And that's how we get our Fabulous Fridays. We take assessment of what happened in the week. And when we have crappy weeks, and we all have opportunities to have what we see as a crappy week, as a horrible week, as a shit show week, shit show day, when you take it back and you break it out and you say, what are the one things I did for me? What's the one thing I did for my veteran in our relationship? And what is the one thing I did for somebody else? You do that, then all of a sudden they become victories, and your whole week isn't crappy because you accomplished 3 good things. And that's what our Motivational Fridays are all about. Our Fabulous Fridays are all about. We take our Motivational Monday where we set that goal, and we take our Fabulous Fridays and we assess that goal. And we take account for it. And that's where our Fridays become better. That's where we go into the weekend feeling pumped and like we're stronger than we've ever been. And it's not always something we look at things as either if it makes me happy, it's a good thing. It's not always making you happy isn't always a good thing. So take that in when you're thinking about this. If it makes me happy, it's a good thing. Sometimes sad things that you're going to have to struggle through are really a good thing in the end. So sometimes the tough things, you make a decision, this is going to be tough, right? You make that decision, this is going to be something we're going to do and it's going to be tough. 2,200 squats in a month, whatever it is. I'm going to give up junk food. That may be tough on day 1, 2, and 3, 4, 5. That may be tough from the beginning, but it's a good thing at the end of the cycle. So that's what you have to think about. Don't just think about victories are things that make you happy. Victories, when you think about reassessing your week, can be things that are uncomfortable initially that will have a positive outcome down the road. They may be uncomfortable initially, but they will have a positive outcome down the road. So you need to consider that when you think about how fabulous your Friday is. I talked to Nakia this morning, and she had to get off of Let's Talk last night because Richard wanted to take her for ice cream. Right? She was in the middle of Let's Talk, and she had been out chasing the poor little cats all over the neighborhood because they tried to get out during the storm. And Richard's trying to put his shoes on. He says, I want to take you for ice cream. Y'all, that was a fabulous moment for her. A fabulous moment, because you don't know how many moments you're going to have like that. And I think that's where we all seem to forget. We don't know how many fabulous moments we are given. None of us know that. You can sit here and say, oh, they're sick, they have a terminal illness, they have this, they have that. And so we kind of know this, they have cancer, they may not, they may this. I mean, we all hear it, how I feel and what's going on. But in my career as a paramedic, you can put a 16-year-old kid in a car that you think their whole life is ahead of them, and a tire blows. Nobody's fault, but a tire blows, and now they lose control and they're ejected or they flip over and they're no longer here. So something as minor as that. So you can't say, well, I'm going to have a day today and not think about my good moments later on, because every moment you need to take and make it a good moment. If you have them, embellish them. You don't have to wait and say, well, we had a good day, because you got lots of moments in that day. So start taking them in. Her leaving to go get ice cream instead of saying, Richard, stop. Do you not know today is Thursday and it's Let's Talk and I'm on the phone with these people right now? She didn't do that. She told us, I'm going to go. My Richard wants to take me to Sonic. And the ice cream doesn't do well with her in the heat. But you know what? She got in the car and she took Richard and they went to Sonic and they had a little date and they watched the rest of the storm pass. That was a good moment for her in her fabulous moments. Those are the victories we count. That's what we do that motivates us and takes account of our situation. I looked at Let's Talk last night. We had a great group of people on Let's Talk last night. And it's funny because initially when we get on Let's Talk, it's usually the spouses that get on first and not the veterans. Okay. It's usually that. And over the time, and you can watch the progression happen, like they'll say, I'm not doing that. The veteran, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. And before long, they're kind of listening. And every now and then you'll hear them from the background kind of put their 2 cents worth in. But more and more, we're seeing more and more of the faces. We're hearing more and more of their conversations. We're getting more and more of that coming in. We're seeing more and more of that. So Melissa's husband's face popped in and out a few times. We're all waving at him, like, hey, man. And so he's waving back and he's engaging. Y'all, those are victories. Those are things that make our when we start counting up our week, are we making progress? That is a huge progress from where he was 4 months ago. That is a huge progress from where we all are. So it happens. You got to look at the little things and start adding them up. You think about the pyramids. I am in awe of the pyramids. I think when they talk about the wonders of the world, the pyramids are it to me. You think about when those things were built. Okay, so like people, it's hot there. There's not a lot of water there. Okay, so these people like dug, sand, mixed, made, every one of those blocks are mixed by hand. They didn't have some cement truck come hand you blocks that were already done. Okay, they didn't just bring this big truckload from the Lowe's with the blocks that were already done. They made them. They baked in the sun. They made these blocks. They toted the water. They did this stuff. And then they stacked them to go up to a perfect point at the top. And they're still standing. All these years later, they're still standing. It didn't happen overnight. That wonder that is considered one of the 7 wonders of the world, the pyramids, the Great Pyramids, they didn't happen overnight. It took to build a pyramid. When you were starting at the beginning and you're digging in the sand and the dirt and the water and the stuff and the mixing and the doing and the carrying and the I mean, I want to know how they got the guy that voted him to put the last block on the top of the pyramid. And in the reality is the guy that put the last block on the top of the pyramid, it was probably his great-grandfather that dug the foundation, or great-great-great-grandfather that dug the foundation. It didn't happen overnight. And so we think that if we don't get these monumentous victories, that we can't count them. Imagine what the guy was like, the very first guys that mixed these blocks up to make the pyramids, and they finally got the perimeter stacked. And they are sitting there looking at it like, I did something. You know, they may have mixed blocks for 4 years. We don't know. But when they finally got the perimeter, the base, the foundation, the first rung of blocks in, imagine what they were like. They had to look back and say, that is some crap, and I did it. I mean, think about that. It took them forever, and all they had was the first row. And they're like, whoa, we are proud of that. You know, and so we don't see a life like that. We don't see life until it's finished. We don't see our projects until they are done. You can't do that. You got to look at the little stuff along the way, and they may be uncomfortable. And it may be a situation where you have to step back to rebuild. Or it may be a situation where you're together and you're so angry all the time that nobody's healing because you're feeling off of that anger. And then you say, hold on, we're going to take a step. Or you talk about taking a step, and then you realize before you take that step back, you don't want to really do that. So what are we going to do to go forward? Sometimes you got to pause. Sometimes you got to take a step back. Do you think those guys laid all them blocks out perfectly square the first time? No, I'm sure they laid a block, and they laid a couple of blocks, and then they stood back because their way they build is phenomenal. And they had their little squares out, and all of a sudden they realized the angle was wrong. And if it doesn't stop raining, they realized the angle was wrong, and they had to move blocks. It happens. But what happened as a result? And that's where we have to get in our mindset when we're thinking about victories. It doesn't have to be the completed part. It doesn't have to be the great masterpiece. Did you put the first block in? Back up a step. Did you make the plan and go dig the sand to make the first block, even if it took that block 6 months to cure? When you start thinking in that mindset, when you start utilizing that mindset, everything changes. You know, the old adage, Rome wasn't built in a day. It wasn't. It wasn't. You know, we watched, most of us at some point, or watched a replay, we watched the World Trade Centers come down in a matter of hours. From these beautiful buildings. They came down in a matter of hours. But how many years do you think it took them to put them up? And we don't think about the work that it takes to put it up there. And anybody who's ever been to Mount Rushmore, I've been, and that is just like one of the greatest things ever to me, is to go to Mount Rushmore. But you take, it's hard enough for a sculptor to sculpt a bust out of clay or chisel out of marble or whatever. I mean, that's tough. But can you imagine taking into the side of a mountain that is full of rock and granite and chiseling, and you may be chiseling and you don't know at this point if you're working on George Washington's nose or his eyebrows when you first start. You're not even sure whose face you're doing when you first start, because you got to get that roughness off before the faces form. That didn't happen in a day either. They didn't just go out there with some magical thing and say, look, yeah, I think I want the presidents to be up on this mountain. And if you've ever stood at the base of it and looked up, that's not an easy climb, okay? I mean, and think about when it was built. I always think about that. I think about when it was built, and with today's technology, how long would it take it to be built, right? It didn't happen overnight. We forget that. We forget all the stuff that goes in. I was blessed to work at the shipyard, and my daddy worked there, and my brother worked there, and my grandparents worked there, generations. And I can remember these massive dry docks, and y'all have, when you have no idea when you're talking about massive dry docks. And I stand at the bottom of the aircraft carrier now. If you're like ever get an opportunity and you look up, you got to realize how much of it's still underwater. But do you realize that every ship in there starts with a keel? It starts with a piece of metal that is dropped in. One piece. And they're all put together piece by piece. And then the wiring. They just don't go in and flip the light switch on. There's multiple stories. There's thousands and thousands and thousands of square feet of this thing. And they got to have water and heat and air and wiring, and run the lights and run the computer systems and run the weapon systems and run all this stuff. You know how much that takes to do that? It doesn't happen. The Navy doesn't just pick up the phone and say, hey, we need an aircraft carrier, and the builders deliver it in 6 months. It doesn't work that way. It takes years. But it all is a piece at a time. It's a piece at a time. And here's the better part. When you're building an aircraft carrier, they go to different fabrication shops. So like one place may do the pipes, and they put all the pipes together in this one shop, and it's all going to this carrier. Or they may decide, hey, this is the electrical people, and they're going to put all the wiring is all designed and run through a certain way. It's all done in a shop, and then it's all brought there. So it's done in individual places. And then to make it even more interesting is I worked in material supply. So I was there when it came in, right? So it comes in on rail cars and trucks and trains and whatever. And right. So you take all these pieces, and they're sitting in big warehouses, and they call them and they say, hey, we need this piece because we're going to work on this. And it can be something as tiny as a washer, right? Or as big as a house. And it's all stored, and it all comes together. And that's what happens when we build our relationships. When we talk about our accomplishments, it comes that way. It's little pieces that are all over everywhere that we slowly bring together to create this strong relationship. And we forget that. So when you take account of your Fabulous Fridays, what is the little pieces that you're storing somewhere? You may be storing them today. This week, you may not have built a darn thing in your relationship, but you planned and you stored for what's going to be your future. And that is your Fabulous Friday. That is what we do. We have a mindset. And I'm looking at Stephanie saying, thank you for that reminder. Stephanie, me, and Michelle are so much alike. We are this super type A personality. Like, look, I'm hard to deal with because I'm one of these instant gratification people. If I want it, it needs to be there. Look, I could never, not if I had $1 million, I could never go in and design $1 million house. If somebody gave me $1 million and said, here, Stacey, build this house, here's your $1 million. I couldn't do it. You know why I couldn't do it? Because I couldn't wait the 6 months for you to build the damn thing. You giving me $1 million for a house, I want to be going and buying the furniture today and living in it tomorrow. That's how I am. So for me to take a step back and learn that, hey, wait a minute, we gotta like come up with an idea and see if this is what we really want. Yeah, and a lot of times especially when younger couples build houses, they think about, oh, we need the nursery. Hold on. I don't remember what it was. It made me change it the other day. It's my birthday. Mm-hmm. We want a nursery, so we're going to build a nursery like right off of the master bedroom. And then you're like, oh, well, great. We have this nursery right off the master bedroom. So what the hell are you going to do with the nursery off the master bedroom when the kid is like, 20? So we don't think about that. We think about what we need right this minute. We don't think about what we're going to need when the kid's 20. That's why so many people that buy houses, they're like, oh, this is going to be our forever home. They buy like a 2-bedroom and they're going to have another baby eventually. So they might want a guest room and a 3-bedroom. And then before long, they're selling it because they need a 4-bedroom. We don't think about that. We think about that instant gratification. And that is what we want all the time. That's what we want all the time is the instant gratification. We don't want to think about long-term. How do we get to that long-term? So when you take account of your week, it's not just what you did today that affected your happiness today. It's what did you do this week that's going to affect you down the road, that's going to bring you to that happiness you desire down the road. So our Fabulous Fridays don't all have to be about what great thing happened to me today. It's what little step did I take today. Always, sister, God puts it in me. I just spit it out. What little step did you take today that is building your future for tomorrow or the next day or 3 years from now? That's what we forget when we feel defeated. We feel defeated. That's what happens. When we feel defeated because we don't get instant gratification, we think of ourselves as a failure and we're like, okay, so what did you accomplish this week? And you're like, I didn't do a damn thing. It was the worst week I ever had. Don't tell me you didn't do a damn thing. It was the worst week you ever had. You did something good or something good came along the way. And it may have been a crappy week, but you're laying the foundation for something good. And we forget that. That is how we take account of our stuff. We set out on Motivational Mondays to say, hey, these are our goals. This is what we want to get to. I didn't say on Motivational Monday, get your goal, do your goal right now, Motivational Monday, that you're going to accomplish by Friday. I said set your goals. What are you going to do for yourself, for somebody, for your spouse, and for somebody else? I didn't say you had to have that justification today. You might have planted a seed. You do have to choose to be happy, babe. You do have to choose to be happy. But choosing to be happy is a struggle when you're living in the negative. When you don't see a light. When all of the crap comes upon you, it is hard to see the light. You have to understand that the light may not be right then and instant. We live in a world of instant gratification. And that happiness light may not be right now. Because we may not have our big picture right now. But you think about those guys that mixed the blocks to build the pyramid. How did they feel at the end of the day when all of the blocks were poured and sitting out there drying? How did they feel? How did they feel at the end of the day, when they went in and took the frames apart, and now they had a set of blocks that they could start building the pyramid. All of those little things gave them their motivation. Was done on Monday that said, the beginning of their work week, that said, hey, this is what we're going to accomplish. And they may not have built the pyramid because, like they came in and was like, hey, our job is to build a pyramid. Hey, great. Just like, I can remember being assigned to a carrier. Our job is to build this aircraft carrier. Yay. Well, before the aircraft carrier is built, you've changed departments, or you may have moved on, and so the carrier's not built, or they may have put you on submarines or something else, and you may not see from project 1 where the keel was laid to project 2 where it's commissioned, where it's christened, where they break the bottle over it, and then from the time it's christened to the time the Navy gets it's another 2 years, and you're still working on it. People are like, oh, well, we've christened the ship. Well, yeah, that's because you named it. Okay, that doesn't mean that the Navy owns it yet. It's not till it's commissioned that the Navy owns it, so it's not even done. And then after it goes to the Navy, it takes another year to shake it down before it all turns over to them 100%. So this project may take you 6 years, 8 years. You may not be there, but you laid the keel that eventually became the carrier. That's what we have to think about. Gave me an admiration smile this morning. Mornings are hard for us. You would think we hate each other, and it's been a day one. So this morning, I said, would you ever laugh it off? You have to be positive for yourself. You have to look at the little steps. That's what you have to do. So there's my Fabulous Friday tie into my Motivational Monday. We're going to have a Fabulous Friday because you're going to take into account now, and you're going to say, you know what? I didn't have a shitty week. I didn't have a crappy week. I didn't have a crappy this. I laid blocks. I made a plan. I laid blocks for what is going to be something amazing down the road. All y'all are fabulous. All of you are fabulous. All of you love your veterans, and that's okay. That's okay. Don't let anybody else tell you different. It's okay to love them where they are. And it's okay to love them when people say they're not lovable, because let me assure you, Wednesday, I was definitely not lovable. And Carl said I was. So y'all have a blessed weekend. Remember, fireworks are a trigger, but we know that. Talk to your veteran now about how you want to handle that. Get that plan in place. Right? Put your plan at the top, Sarah, all day, every day. It's a mountain, and we climb them every day. But that's what you need to do. So have an amazing weekend. I will be here Monday. Y'all have a blessed weekend. Again, enjoy. Celebrate your victories. And if you're having a hard time, find them, because you do. You did them. You just may not realize it today. I'm Stacy. This has been Walking in My Shoes. We are loving my veteran. Have a blessed day, a happy 4th of July weekend, and enjoy. Bye.